So you've decided that you want to sign up for your first ADGA sanctioned dairy goat show, or you're thinking about it and trying to figure out what all is involved. First thing to know is that showing is really fun. It has wonderful sportsmanship. People are really kind to each other. It's not like these really intense, things you see about dog shows or anything like that. Everyone helps each other out. It's a very positive environment. It's very friendly. So you'll get so much out of it. But there is a lot to know. There is a lot to do to prepare. So step one, how do you find and sign up for an ADGA show? Sometimes it feels like you know about them by rumor, or how do people know these shows are going on? The first place to start is go to Facebook and look up your local ADGA district group. So we here in Oregon, we are an ADGA District 7. Everybody who has a show, is putting on a show in our area, post those right to our ADGA District 7 group. That's a great place to start. If you have a local dairy goat club, check in with them, see if they are hosting a local show. Sometimes you have to travel a ways to get to your nearest show. And then if you get really into it, you might actually travel out of state to go to some bigger dairy goat shows. So that's one place to start. Now, ADGA members get a little newsletter in the mail. I believe they're quarterly at this point. And usually on the back or somewhere on the inside, it will have some upcoming shows that have been provided for them to share with the rest of the community. But keep in mind, that is a really limited list. There's a lot more shows going on that are just listed in that little monthly newsletter. So once you find a show that you want to sign up for, what kind of show is it? There are senior doe shows, there are junior doe shows. Sometimes you will have both mixed together, but sometimes it's only one. And there are buck shows. There are even breed specific shows. The Nigerian dwarf breed is so popular, sometimes you'll see a show that's just for Nigerian dwarf. So when you're deciding which show to sign up for, you're going to want to think about which animals you are going to bring. So a great place to start is going to adga.org and searching for scorecard. This is going to show you the exact number of points attributed to each attribute of the goat and help you see what the judge is actually going to be looking for. Of course, every judge has their own opinion, even though they're all trained to the same scorecard, so don't worry too much. No goat is perfect. If your goat, maybe excels in one area, but maybe it's a little weak in something else, like don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. That's okay. So once you've read through that, it's pretty long and detailed. That might help you decide who to bring to the show. Once you've decided who it is that you want to bring to the show, you have to figure out which class they belong in. So junior does, or a junior doe show, involves anything that does not yet have an udder that's under 2 years old. So the oldest class is called the dry yearling class. This is a doe over 1 year old who's never been pregnant and does not have an udder yet, has never had an udder yet. Then you have your advanced juniors, your intermediate juniors, and your beginning juniors. What group they're going to be in will very much depend upon their birth date of when they were born, and then it will be relative to the show date. So every show, what qualifies as a beginner, intermediate, or advanced will be dependent upon that show's actual date and your kid's actual date. So look at the show you've decided to sign up for and see what their classes are. Those are called the classes. If it's a show associated with fair, they also call them lots. But for this purpose, let's just call them classes. Now in senior does, that's a doe with an udder. Now this start actually at under 2 with an udder, because you can have 1 year olds who've never freshened before, dry yearling in the junior class, or you can have 1 year olds who are first fresheners who now need to be in the senior doe show. So that means that they're usually broken up. The classes for senior does, typically, not always, are broken up into 2 years or less with an udder, 3 year olds, 4 year olds, and then 5+. Generally, not every show sticks to that, that breakdown. But so look at what your show is planning to do. So then you're going to complete their registration information. Sometimes this is a paper application that you need to send to the show to apply. Some now are using a great app called Showman, so you'll do it all online. Those are really cool. Now, if you're registering kids, make sure that you have at least the stamped duplicate of their registration before you get to the show. When you check in at the show, you will have to have that nice blue piece of ADGA registration for each goat that you bring. If you've just registered a kid, you will receive, usually via email, a stamped duplicate, which for a temporary amount of time will stand in for that registration certificate. On that, both the certificate and the stamped duplicate and their regular registration certificate has the birth date, the tattoos, and then the registration number of each individual animal. That's all needed. Why does it matter? Obviously, we want to know that they are ADGA registered. But if your goat wins, they are going to look at your original certification, your original registration paperwork, that nice blue sheet, or your stamped duplicate if it's a baby, and check the tattoos written on that paper and check the ears of the winner. Boy, wouldn't it be disappointing if you won and then the tattoos did not match. So maybe now you're wondering, I have a beautiful 2-year-old. I'd really love to bring her to the show, but I've never bred her before and she doesn't have an udder yet. Well, technically you can sign them up for the show. That's fine. They usually won't score very well because the udder, once they're a senior doe, is a big part of the scorecard, 35 points. So they tend to, if they're missing just that whole portion of their score, they're probably gonna be in the lesser places at the end of the line in this show, but you can sign them up and you can bring them. Just keep your expectations low. Step 2, practicing with your goat for the show. This you should start the minute you sign up for the show, or if you know, even if you haven't signed up yet, but you know that date is on the horizon, you can start working with your doe to get her used to being led in the show ring. So 90% of the time, you are going to be walking your goat on your right-hand side, right here. So even from the day you start taking them out to the milk stand or anything like that, get them used to you putting your hand under their collar, palm up. Keep the collar under the chin, right here, not down here on the neck, keep it right here. Get them used to having you hold their head high. And you can do this with any collar you have just to start, just on the day-to-day basis of getting them used to being walked around. Now, as you get closer to the show, you're gonna wanna start practicing with a show collar. Now, if you go to the feed store, you're gonna find a collar that says Goat Show Collar, and it's gonna have a chain with a little leather handle. That is incorrect for a dairy goat show. That is for showing meat goats. What you wanna do is go online and look for a simple dog choke collar, not the kind with the prongs. You're gonna wanna get the nice metal chain that has the 2 rings on the end. Show collars look like this. You haven't ever used one on a dog before, you put one end through the hole and it makes a ring just like this. Keep in mind that you'll want to have a good size for your goat. I keep a huge variety of show collars depending on if I'm showing kids or adults. You can, if you decide to register more than one goat in the same age group, meaning they'll be in the same class, keep in mind that you'll need collars for both of them at the same time. Also keep in mind that if you have a kid who you're working with who's growing, that the collar you start practicing with might be too small by the time you get to the show. That's why I keep a variety of sizes. When you have it on the animal, you don't want it to be snug. You want to make sure you have enough room to have your hand underneath like this. On little goats, often I will end up picking up the slack and pinching it between my fingers like this. Don't be at all surprised if when you start doing this, your goat is like totally normal. Get them used to the sensation of having this on. Also, don't ever, don't yank. That would be terrible. That doesn't feel good for anybody. Be really gentle with them on the collar, and if they are not fighting you, give some slack. Like it's kind of a reward. This is kind of used in basic animal training that they give, you give. So put this on your goat and practice with it. My goal is to practice 5 minutes a day with each animal I intend to show. My tips for this are practice walking them in a circle on your right hand side. You never want to have your body between your goat and the judge. You always want the judge to be able to see your animal, not your legs. Sometimes the judge will cross over you to the other side, so you do need to practice switching sides with your goat. So if you have them standing your right hand side, practice taking 3 steps around their head, around their face to one side, and then back. Get them used to you crossing in front of them, and then just walk them and walk them and walk them. We'll get into what's called stacking them in a moment, but first things first, every day practice with your goat a little bit, getting them used to just walking in a circle on a show chain in your right hand. Also know that these are not safe to leave on your goats when they are not practicing. This could just get caught and strangle on anything. I teach all my 4-H kids this. We only put these on when we're working with them and immediately take them off. Even when I'm at shows, I only put this on right when we go in the show ring, and I leave on their just standard nylon or chain or plastic breakaway chain collars all the rest of the time. Only in the show ring. So when you're in the ring, you're going to be walking in a circle, following the direction of where the judge says to go. Sometimes the judge will pull some out and line them up in the center of the ring. It's normal for the judge to motion for you to have them walk forward so that he can see they're moving from the front, or walk away from you so we can see them from behind. But when you're walking in that circle, or you're getting pulled out into the center of the ring, every single time you stop moving, you pose your goat. Every single time. Even if you're only stopping for 3 seconds, you pose your goat every single time. So posing your goat, stacking your goat, however you want to call it, means showing your goat to their best advantage. What you want to do is put the front legs directly under the shoulders, so they're not out like this, they're not like this. Have them really balanced and even. Squarely, have their front feet squarely in front of them, and even apart and right under the shoulders. And then in the rear end, you want those legs so that the pin bones, that edge of the butt basically, to be even with the hocks. If you have a doe with an udder, you are hoping to have a third of her udder in front of the back leg, a third behind the back leg, and the last third coming out behind the back leg. If you have a well-attached udder, that's very possible. If you have a poorly attached udder or a not very big udder, that's a little bit more challenging. But so you want to have those legs complement and frame that udder. On a kid, you're just looking for sort of a balanced look. You don't actually want to have their legs so widespread that they look ridiculous. You actually want it to kind of like as if as a kid, pretend there's an udder there and try to make them look wide but balanced. And on a doe with an udder, you actually don't want those legs splayed out. You want it to really frame evenly that udder. What I do is I practice actually either with a mirror or with a video camera and look back at it, because not every animal looks great they're all built a little bit differently. So you got to find what really looks best on that particular animal, how they are best positioned. Because when you're positioning them, you are on top of them looking down. You are not seeing it in the same way that the judge sees it. So go to Target, get that giant bathroom mirror and bring it down to wherever you're planning to practice with your animal. So every time you stop, you practice some walking in a circle and then stopping, posing your goat. If she's not having it, and she's doing this, and she's coming out of the position, walk them in a small circle, and do it again. When you're practicing, you're just gonna do that over and over and over. In the show ring, that's completely acceptable as well. If you have an animal who's not standing and is getting really raucous, walk them in a circle, try again. So one of the most important things you're going to need to do before the show is you're going to need to clip your goat or your goats that you are bringing. My favorite timeline is about 10 days prior to the show. Keep in mind that certain coat patterns really show the track marks of the clippers more, and I like for there to be a little bit of hair growth to kind of cover that up. So, you know, certainly you can clip them the day before the show. However, just like you don't want to get your hair cut the day before picture day or before your wedding, think about it the same way with your goats. If you have a bunch to do, you probably won't be able to get them all done in the same day, so you might start on day 11 and go through day 8. That's totally fine. So when it comes to clippers, you need good clippers to do this. You can go to your drugstore and buy those really cheap at-home hair cutting, but your goat will look like a mess. It will take you an eternity, and you will both be very frustrated with each other at the end. We really love our Andis clippers, and if you can only afford to buy one set of clippers to start with these. We're really happy with our Andis Ultra Edge. It does take a long time if you're trying to do an entire body with just these tiny clippers. So if you can, for your birthday, Christmas, ask for the big deals. We get these big clippers. Look at the size difference. These are from Premier One. Lister is the other top brand for getting high quality clippers. These are really loud, so it might be scary for your goats, but they clip so fast. You can get that body done very quickly, and then what we do is we'll do the main body with the big clippers and come around and do the detail work with the small clippers. With each set of our clippers, we use 2 different sets of blades. This for the rest of my body clip on detail is a number 10, and then we use a 40. Look at this, is so tiny, with these teeny tiny teeth for doing the udder, and then also inside the ears. Yes, inside the ears. Goats hate it. The reason you do that is so when they win, hopefully, the judge can see those tattoos inside of their ears. So when we say clip your goat, we're gonna clip everything. We're gonna clip the entire body down, even though these are longer. This 10 is still gonna look really short at first. We are gonna go between the toes, we're gonna go around the hocks, we are going to do the head and the face, which is, they hate that too. If you're doing bucks, be sure to Google a couple of pictures about how to do buck faces, and usually you're leaving the beard on. It's a little bit different than with does. With does, all the hair goes. And also we even trim all the way the tail. We take off most of the hair, and we leave a little bottle brush right at the end. Now you wouldn't get kicked out of the ring for not clipping your goat, but we want to show your animal to its best advantage, and be able to have that judge really see the entire body. Some goats will stand there and just let you do it. Others get very impatient, so it's okay if you get half of it done and need to give the goat and yourself a break and come back and finish the rest tomorrow. Just be sure not to leave too much time so your hair growth rate isn't different. It is recommended that you wash your goat before you clip them, because that will help keep your blades sharp. But if you can't, it's not the end of the world. We typically, depending on the time of year, will maybe wash a goat the day before the show, maybe, especially if she has white or big white splotches on her body. That I do want to make look nice, but other than that, it's just a lot of really good brushing, really cleaning those feet, trimming those feet, you know, making sure she looks as good as we possibly can. One thing I'll add is if you are doing an early show, like let's say it's May, and the weather is iffy, in some parts of the country that goes all the way through June, you need to make sure that you have some goat coats ready for any goats you clip, because sometimes at that time of year you can have clip them on a 90-degree day and then the temperature drops to 40 degrees, we're talking Fahrenheit, overnight. Your goat will be shivering because they don't have their fur. This could be a total opening the door to get sick or get pneumonia. So don't learn the hard way. Be sure to just have goat coats at the ready anytime you clip goats. My new rule of thumb is I can only clip as many goats as I have coats available after having an incident in May where it was very hot and then the temperature just sank overnight, and I had just clipped 10 goats for show. And I did not have 10 coats. Ran around town, was able to find them, but not that easy to find goat coats necessarily. So clipping is challenging. You will get very dirty and very itchy. Do it before you're planning to take a shower. Be patient with your animal, patient with yourself, and do your best job. And have a helper. It really helps if you have a helper. My one last pro tip, it took me a couple times to figure out, was that clipper blades when you're clipping get very hot very fast. So you want to keep them oiled. Usually they'll come with some oil. And my favorite tip is to own multiple sets of the same size. So I'm going clipping along. I can feel on my hand it's starting to get a little bit hot. I can take off the hot clipper blades, put on a fresh pair of cool clipper blades, keep on clipping, and then switch them back and forth as I go. You don't want to have really hot blades pressed up against your skin, and neither do your goats. So you're signed up for the show, you've decided who you're going to take, you've been practicing, and now you've got to prepare to pack for the show. So the first things to worry about are the creature comforts of your goats. Some shows will provide bedding and some will not. So go and read through the info about the show and find out if they're going to provide shavings or straw, and see if you need to bring your own bedding. Some facilities have really strict rules about which kinds of bedding you can use, so be sure to know that ahead of time. For shows, there will typically be pens provided, and those will already be set up. Sometimes they are already assembled and assigned, like you'll have your name already on those pens. Sometimes you get to pick where you want to be. The number of pens you will request or want is dependent upon how many animals you're bringing and what types they are. So for example, our senior does don't like to mix with our junior does. The old ladies don't want to be mixed with the kids. So depending on how many animals I'm bringing, I might reserve 2 or 3 separate pens. So when I'm packing, I'm going to need to make sure I have enough supplies for each pen. In addition to bedding, of course, you're going to want to bring hay. I would bring whatever your animals are used to. I would not expect to get something there or borrow something from a friend. Goats don't like change, so give them, pack whatever it is they're used to. Some people use hay feeder bags like this. The holes on this were too small, so I had to actually open up and cut some bigger holes in this one. You could get some hanging feeders, like the big metal feeders that you can hang onto the pens. I've even seen people get creative and use laundry baskets. So whatever works for you. Make sure you have one for each pen, at least one for each pen. You're gonna wanna bring your own water buckets. If it's really hot out, maybe bring extra buckets or bigger buckets for your goats. Again, multiples of these if you have multiple pens. At home, these clips work for us to clip our buckets to the fence, but it might not, depending on the type of pen that you have. Every facility has different types of pens that may or may not work for your type of animal. If you go to somewhere that has chain link pens, those pretty much work for every size of goat. But if you go to a fairgrounds that has the big tubular, very far apart pens, and you're bringing Nigerian kids, they can just slip right through there. So you need to be prepared for a way to keep them in your pens. I have a friend who brings a roll of cyclone fencing to any show she goes to so that she can pin that, up to the insides of the pen to prevent kids from escaping. We have some portable puppy fencing that I just pack with us. I never know what kind of situation we're going to be in. So it's just better to have it than not to have it. So along those same lines, my favorite go bag is this guy. This is full of bungees, zip ties in every variety, some Velcro straps. I would rather have options and just have this on hand than not, because you never know what it's going to be like when you get there. I've been in pens where the gate latches didn't work, so I needed to use a bungee to keep those gates closed, or who knows, all kinds of things. Sometimes the gate latches work, but your goats know how to open them, so you need another way to secure them. So handy to have more tools than you actually need. Always come prepared. We worry a lot about biosecurity with our goats. When you get to a show, you never know how the pens are going to be laid out and what kind of goats might be penned around your goats. Now, I don't mind my own goats sharing pen lines. I'm not worried about them sharing diseases to each other, of course. But the people in the pen next to you, behind you, to the side of you, you don't know them. We don't know what they might be bringing to the show. Sometimes those are, that could be a respiratory illness that hasn't even shown up yet, like maybe a contagious pneumonia. It could be pink eye. It could be CL, that they maybe have abscesses internally and are breathing on the fence. And the most common one you see is ORF, which is sore mouth. So if an animal, has been chewing on the fence, licking the fence, and then your animal does the same thing, which they'll do, they're goats. Now you've got a perfect opportunity for your animal to catch it too. In hopes of preventing that as much as possible, when our pens adjoin stranger herds, goats, we pin up these really heavy duty curtains. They're heavier, they're like a canvas. They're not tarps, but they're heavier duty than that. You'll need these zip ties and bungees for these guys too. I will pin these up between our pen and adjoining pens with goats I don't know. And it looks nice too, also keeps your goats from being distracted. So those are all good things. You can't be sure it's gonna prevent it, but I wanna do everything I can to not get my goats to go nose to nose with someone else's goats or try to eat their hay through the fence. So we do our best to protect them. In alignment with that, I'm gonna bring cleaning supplies, disinfectant, that I'm gonna go through each of my pens before I unload my goats into them and wipe down all of the surfaces. At fairgrounds and different facilities, you never know who was in that pen before you. It could have been sheep, it could have been pigs. They definitely probably weren't cleaned down before you set your goat up in there. And any disease, anything, bacteria they might leave on those pens, on the interior of those pens, is going to be a potential area for infection for your goat. So bring supplies to clean your own pen before you unload your goats. We like to bring a variety of racks. Those can be used for cleaning pens, towels, whether that's spills, whether it's that, your goat soiled themselves and you need to really give them a good wash once you're at the facility to clean up their butt, whatever it is. Extra dirty towels, never Never a bad idea. We're gonna, of course, bring last minute grooming supplies for our goats. We are going to bring a nice brush. Some people like to use show sheen right before they go in the ring. It does make your goats look very nice, but I have heard judges complain that when they're going down the line, you know, feeling the different goats, that this can make their hands sticky, and that's kind of gross for them. So it's something to consider, whether or not you want to use it. We will often bring maybe last minute shampoo, but usually that will have already been done at home. Hoof trimmers, something for wet wipes for cleaning both your hands, and then you want to make sure the insides of your goat's ears are clean. If they are checking their tattoos because they just won, no one wants to be that person with the gross dirt in their ears that holds up the show so the judge can't read the tattoos because your goat's too dirty. So don't forget to pack creature comforts for you as well. Make sure to pack plenty of snacks, lunch, lots of water, and most shows don't provide things like seating, so be sure to bring that. So like a fold-out chair, so you have somewhere to get comfortable, you know, ibuprofen, whatnot. Be sure that you have those things as well. Whatever you're gonna need to help you get through show day. So you prepared with your goats, you were registered, you've packed all of your things. So what are you gonna wear to the show? The short answer is you're going to wear white, which seems crazy for an animal, for livestock to wear all white, but the idea really is to really exhibit your animal who's gonna be standing at your side and just have everything about you be invisible. You just really want your animal to be the highlight of the show. So show whites typically mean you're going to wear pants. You don't want to wear shorts. You want to wear pants all the way to the ankle that are white. A full-length white skirt is also considered acceptable. No shorts. For us, I usually bring 2 pairs. Something horrible happens, I have a backup. These are usually hard to find in town wherever you live. Amazon is a great resource. Levi has white jeans. If you like women's jeans that are a little fancier, Huston sells white jeans. Joe's Jeans sells white jeans, but they're not typically something you can find at the last minute. So be sure to plan ahead and get these. Do practice wearing these and seeing how they fit when you bend over, because you're going to have to bend over when you are leading your goat and posing your goat. So think about a belt. And check the undergarments. White is often quite see-through. You might need some kind of shorts to wear underneath. Figure that out before show day. I also like to wear my kind of trick is that I like to wear a white, very breathable, it's got like a sport top, tank top, which I will wear until right before I go in the show ring. It also provides like an undershirt. That keeps me cool while I'm working with the goat to prepare them. And then I will, at the last minute, just before I go in the show ring, put on a more pressed than this white button-up shirt. I'll just leave it in a bag, keep it clean, next to my show pen, and just put this on right before I go into the actual show ring and take it back off when I come out. If you're going to a place where you're starting really early or going really late, or maybe it's May or late September, bring a white layer that you can wear over in case it gets cold. I've definitely, the last show I went to was a May show and it went until 10:30 at night, and I ended up not only wearing this in the show ring but having to kind of hide a sweatshirt underneath because it was absolutely freezing outside, but I definitely still wanted to be in my show whites. I believe that it's showing the judge respect when you show up and you look very prepared and you're not wearing anything distracting. You aren't going to get thrown out typically for wearing blue jeans or a shirt with a big logo on it or anything like that, but I personally believe that I want to be as plain as possible to really present my goat well. For shoes, I prefer to wear completely closed up boots. The reason I like this is tennis shoes tend to be breathable, and they're often the dust and things from the barn will get into your, inside your shoes, which would drive me absolutely crazy. These are, totally polishable, and my goats, some of my goats, if I have anything with shoelaces, they're going to want to be untying those shoelaces during the show. So boots with nothing on them to grab onto are not going to attract my goat's attention. Lastly, I never wear these boots at home. These are never going in my barnyard, ever. Because of the concern about biosecurity and parasites, these are my show shoes. They go into other barns at other places, and I never cross them, contaminate them into my own barn. If you have long hair, definitely think about how you're going to secure your hair up from your goat so they don't want to nibble on it. And also, because you're going to be reaching and showing and moving, you don't want things that are going to be falling in your face, and you don't want any kind of earrings or anything that would distract or cause your goats to want to grab them. My personal opinion is that showing is like a job interview, and I want to show my respect to the judge by being as put together and nothing distracting and professional as possible. So it's show day. Don't worry, have fun, be respectful and helpful of others. Don't worry if you get a little lost in the ring, just follow what the person ahead of you is doing. Keep your eyes on the judge to see where they're motioning you to go. They'll correct you if you make a mistake, or someone next to you will correct you if you make a mistake. Don't panic. The first time you go in the ring, your heart's going to be doing this, and just keep walking your goat. Fake it till you make it, and have a great time. And see you at the show.